Now let's focus on the financial side of the situation. Well, Christian Takushi joins me from Zurich, where he manages $280 million in Japanese equities for Swisscanto. Good morning to you. Now, in terms of how necessary this bankruptcy was, are you confident that there was absolutely no other way to go about it?
No, absolutely not. Actually, this has been waiting to happen. It is probably the third time in less than a decade that the government and familiar companies are trying to support this airline. Actually, this should have happened earlier.
Christian, now you have a pretty negative view on JAL, and you argue that the importance is actually very limited to the Japanese economy.
You know, it's psychologically important. It reminds me a little bit of what happened here in Switzerland when Swiss Airlines was grounded. That actually it was a shock to a nation, and it's an image shock. And I think the same is happening to Japan. I think the media is really playing this out of proportion. The economic impact is there, but it's limited compared to other issues that are going on in Japan at the moment. I believe, for instance, what is happening with Resona Bank and the government these days is way more important for the overall economy.
The business model, you say, is flawed. Whoever is going to take over this company, what do they have to do? Are we going to see a new JAL come out of the ashes in a completely new form?
You know, the new management will try to make it as new as possible, as different as possible, but I do not believe that the new JAL will have a real chance to survive in the world market in the long run. The reason is whoever is going to merge with JAL or take it over is still also probably abiding to the same strategy that the JAL management had, which is a growth strategy. They believe that this is a growth industry.
But Christian, in terms of JAL, of course, it has so many routes to China, and this is such an important growing market. The company must become something at the end of the day.
It will, and actually, but I assure you, it will need some support again down the road. And the reason is most of the airlines out there in the world are getting government support directly or indirectly. They just don't talk about it. And the reason is most of the airlines around the world, with probably the exception of ANA, All Nippon Airways, have a very big growth story as their main assumption for their business plans. So most of the airlines have been running on a very flawed business model for the last 10 years.
Now, they're also letting go 15,000 people. Is this reasonable?
I have to say this is sad. They could have downscaled over the last 10 years, and now it has to happen in a kind of a shock. That's unfair to the employees that are being affected. Having said that, I believe that the management could have done something over the last 10 years to downsize in a more gradual way, in a more reasonable way. You know, when a company slashes 15,000 jobs in a few days, it is not necessarily that the best people are kept inside the company. When you do such a thing in a few days or in a few weeks' time under such a time pressure, it's not optimal. The company could have done this in a much more rational, obvious way. It should have abandoned its growth strategy 10 years ago.
Christian, thank you so much for that. Christian Takushi there from Swisscanto.